Hello, friends. Thanks for coming back to another Junior Developer Happy Hour. This is going to be a little bit different from what we typically do. Usually we do strictly AMAs, so it's all question for us and forever who our special guest is. But today I'm really excited that we have Leanne Edwards back from App Academy, and she is going to help everyone who is maybe looking for a job right now, trying to get into tech, gonna be helping you all kickstart your job search, and has a ton of great tips to share with you. So I will go ahead and post the Slido, which I forgot to get pulled up. Actually, it's right here. Slido questions. Here we go. I'm posting it in the Zoom chat. So thank you, Brian. You are so on top of it. Eventually, there will be a section, I believe, for Q&A. So that's going to be the greatest place to post questions. People can upvote them. That way that we are still really efficient with getting to the questions that the most people are interested in hearing first. And then, yeah, Zoom chat is always open for other resources to get posted, or that's typically where we put in follow-up questions as well. Follow-up questions to what has already been asked in the Slido. So I think that's all I need to say today. Besides, if you're able to and want to stay until the very end, that's when we will invite people to come off mute and we can have more of a kind of conversation, and we can talk to each other a little bit more. It's going to be at that point when we stop recording. So if anyone is not so sure about jumping onto the Zoom screen and having their video shown, the end is the best place to do that. So also, one more piece of housekeeping. I'm going to be posting in our Zoom chat really quick the YouTube channel where this will eventually get posted. And I'm happy that I am finally in a place that has a good internet connection. So I've been catching up more and more, and it will get posted in the next week or two. So I will drop that. And in case you're curious about me, I'm a software engineer at Nordstrom Trunk Club. I've been a full stack engineer since summer of 2019. I graduated from Dev Bootcamp in 2017 and have been working at Trunk Club ever since. Trunk Club got fully absorbed into Nordstrom. So now I'm the Nordstrom employee. So I've been doing a lot of front-end work with React, TypeScript, JavaScript, and a UI component library called Rebas. So that is plenty about me. And now I'll let Sam introduce himself, and then we can hear everything that Leanne is going to say. Woohoo.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Sam, front-end engineer, most recently at Lyft. Currently, I'm on sabbatical. I quit Lyft last year, a couple months ago in December, and I moved to Tulsa. So I was in the Bay Area for a while, where I spent my whole software engineering career. I stayed in the Bay Area, and I've been an engineer for like 7 years now. So found it was time to move on, find somewhere cheaper to live. And I found the Tulsa remote program. They pay you money to move to Tulsa and give Tulsa a shot. So they're trying to build a community here of remote workers. Have not started the program yet. They require you to provide proof of residence first. So I just got an apartment. So I should be doing orientation next month. So probably can do a JDHH once I get started, just let people know about Tulsa remote. But yeah, so that's me. And let's get to our special guest, Leanne, who's joining us again. She was with us last month and she did the AMA, and this time she's gonna do a presentation for everyone here. How's it going, Leanne?
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I am super happy to be back here. And a couple housekeeping things. I just wanted to make sure. So once I hit present, one of you guys will keep an eye on the waiting room. Okay, perfect. So I will dive in and kind of focus. And if there's any questions as we go through, I'm happy to stop and answer them. I would love for this presentation to be more of a, back and forth, but I'm excited to see the questions in Slido as well at the end. And I will absolutely leave time for questions in the end. And it's funny, I just got off of a family Zoom. I guess those are a normal thing, with all of my family in San Francisco and Boston. And my cousin and his wife were giving the announcement that they were pregnant. And so I just got off of that. And when I joined here, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot this was a happy hour. So I'm enjoying my soda water, which is super boring, but it's all good. I'm excited to be here today with all of you. So thank you for joining. As I mentioned, I am, or one of you mentioned, I am a behavioral coach for App Academy. So I like to think of myself as more or less a wannabe developer. I wish I could be a developer. I married one and I work with developers all day long. I can't do long division, so I just kind of stay in my lane, which is talking a lot and coaching people. I do a lot of life coaching, a lot of career coaching. And my background actually has been mostly in technical recruiting. I've got about, I don't know, at least a decade or more of technical recruiting. So I can speak your language, I just can't write your language. So we will get started. Coach Michelle, who's also a behavioral career coach, which Brady, I've been meaning to introduce you to her as well. She and I did this at the beginning of the year. So I didn't take her out of the presentation because I wanted to talk about her a little bit as we go through. But yeah, we decided to just kind of put something together after 2020 was such a train wreck. We thought, why not start 2021 off with some positive mojo and kind of really get people into a different mindset. So I think, if you think about 2020 and how things were, as humans, we had the opportunity to either feel sad and feel sorry for ourselves and get depressed, or we had the opportunity to pull ourselves out of that, right? And so in order to pull yourself out of that, for some of us, it's easier than others, right? And I think it's important to talk about that year and what that looked like. And then even into 2021 hasn't been the easiest ride either. But again, we have choices on whether we can change our mindset and change the way we look at things, including the job search. So I know a lot of you are bootcamp grads or in this industry, and the job search can be something that isn't always fun. And sometimes you really have to pull yourself out of that funk. And I know it's easier said than done. And so we wanted to really take some time to focus on that at the beginning of the year and help everybody really kick off this year to find that job that they have always wanted, or get their foot in the door somewhere where they could get the experience that they needed in a production environment, actually coding with the team. So I am going to present some slides today. It shouldn't take me too long, and then we'll leave plenty of time for questions. All right, so okay, so can everyone see my screen where it says welcome to 2021? Good, all right, awesome. So this is actually, I came up with this idea after listening to a specific podcast to a guy named Rob Dial, who I listen to almost every morning on the way to the gym. And I will post him in the chat as soon as we're done if you want to follow along. But he is what you call a mindset mentor. And I have been listening to him and changing the way that I look at things as well. And so I really wanted to share this with you because I think it's so important with, specifically the times that we're living in. So if you are taking notes today, one of the most important things I would love for you to write down is that you are the CEO of your own life. Nobody else has control over where your life goes, how your life ends, what happens, what that journey looks like. You are the only person in control of that journey. So keep that in the back of your mind as you're taking notes and listening to what I'm going through, remembering that it's all in your hands. And sometimes I think we forget that because life gets so crazy and things get thrown at us, and there's uphill battles and there's valleys and peaks, and we really sometimes get lost in the shuffle. But ultimately, we own this process. We are the ones running the show. So here's a quick agenda I put together for you. I'm going to introduce Michelle, even though she's not here. We're going to talk about a mindset overhaul, what that looks like. We are going to be intentional. We're going to talk about creating our best life and what that looks like. We're going to talk about the people you surround yourself with, goals, accountability, and really how to get there and what to do next. Okay, so Michelle and I work really close together. In fact, we've worked together for, man, I don't even know now, maybe 15 years. I hired her as a technical requirements analyst back in the day with a startup we were working at. And now she is a behavioral coach with me over at App Academy. And her and I do a lot of stuff together. So I didn't want to leave her out of this. If you want to add her on LinkedIn as well, you can see her name there, Michelle Carruthers. She's a behavioral coach at App Academy. I can also put that into the chat. She's a good resource to have. She's been doing life coaching for years and now is also a career coach. She has I think she has a master's in IT systems information. So she's pretty technical as well. And anything, moving forward, I would love to have her come and do something on mindset and mentorship as well. So our goal today is going to be to teach you how to be deliberate and intentional and really focus on creating your best life possible, especially when going through the job search. And we're in a special time right now, right? We're going through a job search during a pandemic, during a time where the country is not in the best shape it could be, right? There's a lot of things going on. And for the people that are in a job search right now, it's not an easy time. And so I want to just take a second to acknowledge that and give you some tips on how to navigate that. Okay, so I want everybody to take a minute. I want you to get in the right mindset. So I want everyone to just close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, be deliberate, and take notes. I really hope that you guys can have a few takeaways after this session, and maybe even a couple of action items for yourself. So take a minute, get in the mindset, close your eyes, focus, do what you have to do to clear everything else out, and let's go. Okay, so 100% you cannot hit a target that you cannot see, right? And so what I mean by that is if you have goals out there that are fluid and flimsy and not concrete, then you're never going to hit those goals, right? And so I work on the behavioral side of coaching. So a lot of my job seekers are right out of App Academy looking for a job. And instead of kind of throwing resumes at the wind, we try to strategize and focus and be intentional and deliberate about what our actual goals are. So take a minute if you're writing down some notes and think about what your goals are for this year, for 2021. Do you have a target that you can clearly see? Or are you throwing things at the wind and just hoping that something sticks, right? So I want you to take a minute and write down a couple of goals that you've given yourself. Maybe you're in the job search journey. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're a new engineer, right? And you are just getting started and wanting to learn maybe a few different languages that you haven't learned, maybe some frameworks that you haven't learned. So you've got some clear and intentional goals. Okay. So like I mentioned, we are going to talk a little bit about mindset. I promise not to get too frou-frou hippie on you because that's not me anyway. But your mindset is very, very important, especially when you're in the job search as a junior engineer. And like I said, it can make or break you. And I think it's one of the hardest things to do. Getting through boot camp and becoming a software engineer is super difficult in and of itself, but I actually believe that the job search is even harder. So success doesn't happen solely from the things you do. It happens because of the person you become in the process. What I mean by that is thinking about the person that you actually want to become and how are you going to become that person. So I'm going to use myself as an example. So I have created goals for myself in 2021, and some I will share with you, some I will not. One of the goals, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I think in 2020, one of the things that I kind of let go was just my overall health and well-being. I kind of, from like a physical standpoint, I used to run and go to Orange Theory, and all of that stuff was taken away from me. And so instead of just running around my neighborhood or finding ways to work out, I chose kind of a more negative, unintentional path where I was like, nah, I guess we'll just see what happens. Well, guess what happened? I gained about 30 pounds. It's fine. No big deal. Could be worse, right? So one of my goals was to make sure that I got that COVID weight off. And in doing so, I have had to reteach myself on how to be the person that I want to be. So who do I want to be? I want to be the person that shows up and puts my health first. And so I've crafted this identity on myself where I don't want to be the person who lets it go anymore. I want to be the person who is intentional, even on the hardest of hard days. And I recently had a hard day. In fact, this week, what is today? Saturday. So it was either yesterday or Thursday. I have been going to Orange Theory. If you're not familiar, it's a workout class. It's a little intense. And it has been raining here in I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. It's been raining here for 3 weeks straight. We have not seen the sun until today. I promise you, it's been awful. And when I say rain, I mean like 38 degrees rain. So I think it was Friday. I got myself out of bed and I was making it to the 7:15 class, and it was freezing rain. It was like barely light outside and I didn't want to go. I didn't sleep well. And I was like, nope, you made this commitment to yourself. X amount of days, you're going to go and you're going to show up because you're putting your health first. Because if I put my health first, then everything else falls into place, right? And I didn't want to go. I dragged myself there. I drove there in the pouring rain, could barely see, pulled in. I'm always the one that's late. So I'm like sprinting into class and everybody's hanging outside in front of class. And I'm like scooting around trying to get through. And they're like, whoa, 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 where are you going? I'm like, class. They're like, oh no, we don't have any electricity. I'm like, oh my God. So they had no electricity in the entire parking lot. And so I went back to my car soaking wet and I just sat there and I was like, okay, well, I guess I can go back to bed. And I was like, no, you're not going to go back to bed. You are going to hold yourself accountable. Like you said, you're going to go across the street to the gym school membership that you have that you never pay for, or you pay for, but you never go to, and you're going to go work out because you're not going to use the rain and electricity as an excuse to put yourself back to bed because you have goals, right? So think about the person that you want to become. Do you want to become the best developer? Do you want to become a lead developer? Do you want to become a mobile developer? Do you know React, but you want to learn React Native this year? Who is the person that you are crafting in your mind? For me, the person that I have crafted on this side is I want to be as healthy as I possibly can and in the best shape to do some crazy skiing for 2021 or 2022, since I can't ski this year. I have decided that I am going to get myself in the best shape ever to have the best ski season next year. So who do you want to be this year? Take a minute and write that down because it's going to be important to see your end goal to create baby steps in order to get there. Are there any questions so far? If not, I'm going to keep going. Good? Okay. So part of this mindset overhaul is habits. So habits are attached to your identity, have been wired into your brain and your body, right? And so a lot of times, and I am not pointing the finger at anybody here, but I know with the job seekers that I work with, sometimes we fight with, do I want to send out 25 applications today and 10 creative outreaches, or do I want to play video games? Sometimes it's easier to shut it off and play video games. I get it. I do the same thing with my phone. If I don't want to do something, it's just easier for me to scroll my phone and be mindless and look at Pinterest and look at recipes I'll never make, but it gets my mind off of doing what I need to do. So let's look at your current habits, right? How are those attached to your identity? So I put this meme in there because I think it's important to talk about how, in all different kinds of families, you can have people saying, well, my family's obese, so I guess I'm going to be obese too, right? And not try to fight that. My family's all alcoholic, so I'm just going to be an alcoholic too, right? You put these things in your mind because you've heard them over time, and that doesn't have to be true. So who are you identifying as, and what are you telling yourself about your identity? It's very important, because the habits that you create, whether that is, I've got all different types of folks looking for jobs right now, where I've got people sending 400 applications a week to people that are doing the bare minimum and are hitting me up on Sunday night saying that, they weren't able to get 30 applications done during the week, right? Who do you want to be? Do you want to be that software engineer that is landing that killer job? Or do you want to be in the job market for a year and play video games and hang out and chill out and figure out what you want to do, a week at a time? Or do you want to be intentional about your every single day? And I know it's hard. The job search journey is so hard, but you have got to figure out who you want to be in 2021. That's all we have. We don't even know if we're going to be here in 2022, right? So who do we want to be this year? So take a sec to just write down some of your habits that you have. They could be good habits. They can be bad habits. Doesn't matter. Just write down the habits that you have so we can start to understand the identity that you have currently versus the identity that you potentially want for 2021. And I can give you some examples, of myself. Let's see. So habits are, I am terrible at time management. So that's one of the things that I am working on. In fact, funny story, my husband calls himself Todd from time management, because I usually try to fit in 45 things in, less than 12 hours. And he's like, you're going to have to pick 4 or 5 of those. Like, we're not gonna be able to get all those done. And when my husband's not around, my 15-year-old son will call himself Tim from time management. And it's become a joke around here, but time management, I suck at, and I know that. And it's a bad, bad habit. So I have been trying to be more intentional about how I orchestrate my day. And in doing so, I've actually been working with a lot of job seekers that kind of need the same help, where they need to know, okay, so from 9 to 10, I'm doing data structures and algorithms. From 11 to 12, I'm doing pair programming. From 12 to 3, I'm doing nothing but applications, right? And then maybe they get a run in, maybe some lunch, but then coming back and, maybe jumping on with a friend to kind of go through their job search for the week and the companies that they have found and jobs that they've found open, and really setting a concrete schedule for yourself. It's very, very important. But think about your habits and what they are. Does anybody want to share any habits they have, like any good or bad habits at all? So I have another bad habit I'll share. I eat like a 12-year-old, and I would prefer to just eat peanut butter and jelly chicken fingers and pizza at all times. And I know that that's just not, it's not a thing. So I also have a habit of being extremely efficient, but to a deficit. And so this is going to sound crazy, but I don't like to eat vegetables and fruits because I feel like it's not a good use of my time. It takes too long to eat it. So instead of being like, well, I just don't like to eat it, I've decided to take them all and put them into a blender and make myself drink it every day. So I'm drinking things I would never eat, like celery and broccoli and all this crazy stuff. I put it in and I eat it every day. And that's how I get around that bad habit that I made. Okay, I do see some coming through. So someone is, let's see. Oh, Mel is from Charleston. Yay. Okay. Let's see here. 1 hour of walking every day after studying for 2 hours, procrastinating too much. Don't end the day without getting a green box. Ooh, Brian, that is a good one. Staying up too late, cannot be consistent to follow routine. It's not easy. Monday through Friday, Lewis, 8 to 12 is reserved for either learning, coding, or working on projects, whether that be programming or not. Mel says, terrible at the job search. Get distracted with LinkedIn and it prevents me from coding. Go to Amazon for shopping for things I'll never use. Yes, getting distracted. So we all deal with that. And I'm going to tell you that I'll be the first one to say, I'm always one to hold myself accountable, but this is not our fault, right? We have distractions coming in everywhere. In fact, this year I shut off all the notifications on my phone because it was just too easy to pick up my phone and be distracted and then get myself away from what I'm supposed to be doing. I also started reading this book called Atomic Habits. Has anybody heard of that? Okay, if you haven't read that yet, And even if you're not a reader, get it on Audible. I've listened to it like 4 times on Audible on my way to and from the gym because it is so powerful. And it teaches you, it seems like a lot of people on the chat here have trouble not getting distracted, which is my problem too. And so one of the biggest things they say in Atomic Habits is to sit down and say, okay, if I do an hour of data structures and algorithms, I then get 30 minutes of playing video games. And then in the afternoon, rewarding yourself for the things that you do, right? So if I get, to someone's point on here about networking, if I network and come to a couple events, right? Say I have 3 events, I'm going to go to the happy hour this week. And I'm going to listen to a couple podcasts that are technology focused. And once I do those 3 things and I connect with 20 software engineers at companies I want to work with, then I can scroll my phone, right? I can look at Pinterest or Instagram or what have you. So there's ways around it. And it's not our fault. This world has become so distracting and addicting. I'm so addicted to my phone. I will be the first to admit it. And people give you those tips of like, leave it in the other room. And I haven't gotten there yet, one day at a time. So, okay, moving on, just write down who you think you are identifying as, and what are you telling yourself about your identity? So think back to your family, right? As a young child, what are some of the things that you heard, right? I know in my family, I heard everyone in this family is an alcoholic. You will be too. No, I won't, because I'm going to break that cycle, right? You don't have to be what your family tells you you're going to be. I have some people that say, well, I'm always poor, so I'm always going to be poor. No, you're not. You can break that cycle and change your habits to become a different person, the person that you want to be, right? So that does not have to be your be all end all. All right. So here's some good news. I am a science dork. Neuroplasticity allows us to literally rewire our brains. So this is great news. Like there's hope for us, right? We are able to rewire our brains if we want to. Thoughts have power that we give to them. So the thoughts and the things that you say to yourself have power. And we need to remember that, especially during the job search, or especially when we're going through that imposter syndrome, right? Where you're going, I had a job seeker this week who had a really tough coding assessment and bombed it. And thought, he asked me to get on a call and said, I don't think this is for me. And we're only 3 months in, right? And I have seen people that continue to practice, right? And go to pair programming sessions, code live with friends, code with their technical coaches. You can be taught anything you want to be taught as long as you have the right attitude and the right aptitude. If you don't have a good attitude or a good aptitude or work ethic, then I probably can't teach you anything, right? I can't promise you that I can teach you, but we can teach you anything if you have those 2 things, attitude and aptitude. So your thoughts are going to give power to where your journey takes you. So today is about being self-aware. I want you to try to really dig deep today, which I know is hard, and you probably weren't even prepared for this mentally. You might even be drinking a beer, which is fine. I want you to drink a beer, relax, own it, open up, and start to think about who are you for 2021? Who do you want to be? Get real with yourself. Start writing down the things you know are in your way and blocking you from landing the job that you really want, or the job you worked so hard for. So be aware of your feelings toward reaction, acceptance, beliefs, thoughts, actions, and situations. So ask yourself and write down the answer. You don't have to tell me the answer, but are you self-aware right now? Do you know what you need to work on in order to create the life that you want? Not the life you were given or the life that was maybe chosen for you. Remember, you are the CEO of your life. You can even break it down to you are the CEO of 2021. If your life is too much for you, right? All we have to do is worry about the next 8 months and what does that look like? What are some new habits that we're going to create to create a kick-ass life? Okay. So here's just a little graph we put together for you. So why questions can stir up negative emotions. What, how questions keep us curious, right? Autopilot, intentional. So if you look here, you have a situation, what triggers the problem? Example, criticized at work. Thoughts, what goes through my head when I'm criticized at work, or I'm not good enough at that coding solution. I'm not good enough, right? At App Academy, we do end up calling this the doom loop, right? Where you go through this whole loop of crazy thoughts in your head and you talk yourself off a ledge backwards that I'm not good enough, I'm not a developer, and you are a developer. And all of this can be very emotional, but there's also some physical reactions too, right? And I've been talking with a lot of job seekers. At App Academy, we just hired a behavioral mental health specialist to actually work with our job seekers to talk through, the tough times that we're going through in this day and age, right? Some of the physical reactions that I know my job seekers are having are not able to get out of bed or not. I had someone the other day, I'm not kidding you, this is real life. Tell me, I said, how are your projects coming along? I wanted to green light them. And they said, well, unfortunately, have you ever been in a situation where you started playing video games and it was 7 days later and you woke up and there were pizza boxes everywhere and you don't remember what happened? And I was like, well, no, but I can relate on some level, probably in a different way. And we laughed about it, but sometimes it's hard to get out of bed when you're feeling down and blah, and your emotions are kicking in. Like, what did I do? Is this really the right path for me? Right. And you're asking yourself all these questions and making yourself crazy in your mind. I do see the chat blowing up, so I'm just going to take a quick look at it. Yes. But it is there. Anxiety and depression are rampant due to the lockdown. I mean, I had an awesome job seeker the other day who he has been in the job market for over 300 days, got stuck in the pandemic rut, all those things. And he got a job the other day. And I said, he's out in California. And I said, what are you going to do to celebrate? Are you going to go out to dinner? And he's like, no, we can't go out to dinner. And I'm like, oh yeah. In Charleston, we're way more spread out, so it's different. But yeah, life has changed a lot, right? So you really have to think about the words that you're telling yourself, asking yourself the questions, why, what's leading to negative emotions, and then how to be intentional about really overhauling your mindset in a positive way. Again, easier said than done. Okay, so take this time to write down what has been working when it comes to your personality and your habits. What is working? Write down all those wins. We're going to celebrate those wins, whatever they are. So, are you eating healthy? Are you taking care of your body? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you drinking enough water? Are you studying enough DS&A? Are you joining paraprogramming groups? Do you have a place to go where you are surrounded by people who are lifting you up and support you? For example, this happy hour, right? Are you getting events on your calendar like this to hold you accountable to show up and meet new people? When I tell my job seekers about this event, happens every Saturday, right? If not almost every Saturday. So I'm constantly putting it out on our channel, on all of our Slack channels. And I'm like, this is, if 116 people show up today, that's 116 people in your network that you can connect with. And you're the only one standing in your way if you do not connect with all those people on LinkedIn. What would I say to them? I don't know what to say. You say, hey, I'm going to this happy hour. I saw you're signed up too. We're in the same industry. Would love to connect. See you on Saturday. That's it. Super easy. And you now have 116 people in your industry that eventually could help you in the job search. You never know, right? People post jobs all the time. People are looking for engineers all the time. And if not now, maybe 3 to 4 years from now. But you add that contact now to network and really branch out. So now that we've worked on what is working, let's write down what isn't working. Are you not getting enough sleep? Are you staying up all night? Are you missing your, stand-ups with your group? Are you, not taking the time to prep for the interviews? And are you just kind of winging them, right? Are you letting depression get the best of you and not getting help, right? The help that you need in order to move forward. Think about your emotions as well. What are you feeling right now? What have you been feeling this year? Are you feeling unworthy? Are you feeling worthy? Are you feeling smart, not smart? Are you feeling technical, not technical? Just write all these down so that we can continue to move forward in the right direction to own the next 8 months of this year. Okay. So before we move on to the next section here, just a quick retrospection. What were your habits in 2020? Make sure you have these written down. What excuses did you make for yourself in 2020? So the normal Leanne would have gone back to bed any given day. I would have said, it's raining, it's cold, it's been a long week. I've already put in 60, 70 hours this week. I'm going to bed, but I didn't. I muscled through it. What excuses are you telling yourself? Who did you identify as in 2020? What habits did you create? And then what are some of the things that you missed out on because of fear or resistance? Now you don't have to share this with anybody. So this is just between you and the piece of paper, right? Some of the things that you could have missed out on were networking events, any types of, maybe you missed some interviews because it went to your spam and you weren't on it fast enough, right? And someone else got the job before you did. Maybe you went to an interview and you didn't prepare for it. You had no idea what the product was or the software as a service, and you totally bombed it because you showed up the way that you showed up, right? What did you miss out on? Think about those potential incidences that may have happened. And then just take ownership for it, because we're going to leave it all behind us. We're going into 2021 and we're going to start fresh and we're going to start new. Okay, I'm going to look at the chat really quick. Prevention is cheaper than treatment. Getting out of the chair and away from the computer as part of your schedule. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Getting up and you know what I did actually? I've created a small little workout area next to my desk. I have a stand-up desk and a sit-down desk, and the workout area is tiny, but it just has a medicine ball and 2 weights. And I make myself, if I don't want to get on a call and I'm too tired or too burnt out, I stop and I do some medicine balls or I do some jumping jacks to get my blood flowing again. You wouldn't believe what will happen if you get the blood flowing again. It's crazy. It's almost like a shot of caffeine, which is great. Okay. So now we're going to shift gears and we're going to talk about setting your intentions. So you want to clear some space and you want to be able to make space for the things that you do want to bring into 2021, but we want to be very clear on what we don't want to bring into 2021. So what are the habits that we don't want to bring into 2021 with us? So I'll give you some examples of mine while you're writing yours down. I don't want to eat like a 12-year-old, and I don't want to go out to eat 3 to 4 times a week. I just found out that they actually put sugar in a lot of the meals, like not just salt, but sugar when you go out to eat. And I like to go out to eat 3 to 5 times a week because I just don't really like cooking and I work a lot. And by the end of the day, I don't have anything left to give. So I'm just like, let's just go across the street and grab Mexican. It's so much easier, right? I'm not bringing that into 2021 with me because I'm going to be more intentional about making sure that I'm fueling my body to produce the results to be the person I want to be. Right? So the person that I am trying to be in 2021 is somebody who is listening to a podcast every single day on the way to and from the gym, going to Orange Theory every single day, feeding myself enough water, enough sleep, enough good foods, and treating my body almost like a machine, right? Because if you don't put yourself first, if you don't put your health and your wellness first, how are you going to put in any energy to these interviews? These interviews that you guys are going through are exhausting. I was prepping somebody the other day for a 5-hour back-to-back interview. And I'm like, when are you going to have time to get up and go to the bathroom or grab water? Like, it is demanding, right? And you're doing one coding challenge after another and trying to figure out who's who and who you're interviewing with. It's a lot, right? But you cannot show up your best if you're not giving yourself your best. So take some time to figure out what we're not bringing into 2021, and let's write those down. Does anybody want to share anything that they are not bringing into 2021 with them? Let's see. I think I can read some of these here. Yes, caffeine is good in the right amounts. Fear, don't want that habit in 2021. Procrastination, I have a problem managing my time between work and studying. I need money, but I also need to study. How do I prioritize? Really great question, Amanda. I will get to that, I promise. Fear of being inadequate is what I'm leaving behind. Yes, I love that. Yes, on all levels, in every facet of your life, fear of being inadequate has got to go. Taking care of your body, yes. Self-doubt, trying to get back into shape. I missed a lot of interviews and networking because I was worried about my technical capability and portfolio, even if I was technically better than my peers. Result is that others got jobs before me. It's something to work on. Yes, I actually have a job seeker who's going through that now, who's been in job search for quite a while. And he actually, everyone in his cohort has, for the most part, been placed. And that's a hard place to be, right? You don't want to show up to those stand-ups anymore. You don't want to be the last person standing. That's a really, really tough place to be. Even if you know that you're technically capable. And I think one of the things that's really hard about this job search journey is that you love what you do as developers and you love writing code, but when did you ever sign up for selling yourself, right? Like, you didn't know you had to sell yourself maybe, or maybe you did, but you weren't sure how difficult that was going to be. And selling yourself as a human can be really hard for some people, right? There's a lot of self-doubt. There's a lot of like, I don't know what to say. It's awkward. I don't want to, toot my own horn. And you have to in an interview, right? You've got to do that in an interview. Comparing myself to others, somebody's leaving in 2021 or 2020. Bad time management, not asking for help, leaving negative thoughts and people behind. Yes, that's a great one for sure. Leaving behind inconsistency. I often have big ups and downs. I want to be consistent in my mood, work ethic, and mentality. Yes, Chung, same here. And that when I found a routine for myself and I forced myself to get into bed at a certain time to be able to work out in the morning, the consistency piece is so key. Don't give a damn about things I cannot control. Yep. Trying to learn too fast, focusing on slowing my learning process down and really focusing on, as opposed to just skipping through concepts and assuming I understand. That's a great one, Rudy. I think one of the biggest things that I've seen this year is that we have a TA that works with a lot of my job seekers before they interview. And he does a lot of like live coding with them on Google Drive, Google Docs, live, right? And so they're going back and forth, and I've sat in on a lot of them. Some of them are systems design, some of them are just basic data structures and algorithms, and then others are like, intro to engineering 1 and 2, like basics, but pretty hard questions that you may get in an interview. And that kind of practice, I feel like, has really helped, because what you walk away with is what you need to know, what you need to work on, right? Being self-aware on where you're weak as a software engineer will help you flip that script, right? You want to be able to flip that to be really good. And so in order to do that, you have to be self-aware and slow down a little bit to figure that out, for sure. Thank you guys for all your feedback. This is great. All right, let's keep going. Sorry. Okay, so we are going to switch gears here. We're going to start talking about setting your intention. So we talked about all the yuck that we're going to leave behind, right? Now we're going to switch gears into flipping the script and creating the life that you want. So this is your fork in the road. How are we going to navigate this change? So one more time, goals must be intentional. You cannot hit a target that you cannot see. So you will never be able to accomplish a goal if you don't even know that it exists. Okay, so what are your 3 most important goals for 2021? Let's write those down. And I need them to be like so clear. Like, I'll give you an example. This morning, I had a talk with, I have an uncle who's a mentor of mine. He's fantastic. And he's always been a great mentor to me. And we were talking about specific money goals for the year. And he was telling me his intentions, and he had already hit his goals by February on the intentions that he set for himself. So he had to up his threshold for the goals between the money that he wanted that was liquid in case the world falls apart. That was the way he put it. And how much money he had invested in land and property, right? And he had specific numbers on what he was going to target. So for me, right? So what are my 3 most important goals? It's not just to lose weight or be more healthy or stop eating like a 12-year-old. It is lose the 30 pounds I've gained during COVID, right? And then my second goal is to get as lean as I can, body fat wise, meaning build as much muscle as I can so that I show up 2022 as the best skier out there. That powder is no joke when you're skiing in it. And I want to have the best cardio, and I want to be able to ski my best, right? What other goals do I have for myself this year? I am going to write another book, and I know what the book is on. And so I've written down the title, how many pages roughly it's going to be, and what my timeline is going to be. Not just I'm going to write another book and I'll figure it out later. Let's be completely specific about what our goals are here. And feel free to share some of your goals. And I don't mind just reading them out in the chat if that's easier. Okay, let's see here. So get back into shape, find a job in a couple of months. Okay, Derek, I'm going to pick on you for a minute. I want you to write down, what does getting back into shape mean to you? Is that creating more muscle? Is that creating a better cardio? Is that losing inches? You write that down. You don't need to answer it, but write that down for yourself so you have concrete goals. Find a job in a couple months. That can be handled in a completely different manner if we're going to be specific, right? So find a job in a couple months. That gives me a lot of time to just be fluff. How about we flip that script and we say, I am going to put myself, let's just say for the next 4 weeks, right? I'm going to create a sprint for myself for 4 weeks, for the next 4 weeks, because I know that it's the beginning of the year. It's still Q1. People have budgets to blow on hiring people, right? There's tons of jobs out there right now. And this is my window of opportunity for me to apply like crazy, creative outreach like crazy, and network like crazy in order to find a job. So what am I going to do for the next 4 weeks? Don't worry about after that. Don't worry about the maybes, ifs, what. Let's make a plan for 4 weeks for a concrete sprint so that you can get that job in less than 2 months, right? And in order to do that, you've got to be very specific. Bret, creative outreach is something that we do at App Academy. And in fact, Brady, I think I sent you over the videos. If I didn't, I'll send them over to you again, but I've created about 6 hours of videos on what creative outreach means with a spreadsheet to follow and then a bunch of templates to help you out. And what that really means is, so say for example, let's see, we did one on Friday. What did we find? Okay. So on Friday, I went to LinkedIn and I went to LinkedIn groups on the left, and I'm a part of a ton of different LinkedIn groups. So like React, JavaScript, Ruby, Rust, WebAssembly, all the different languages, AWS. Add yourself to those groups. And then you can job search through those groups. I go through them almost every day. And then you find a job through there. You reach out to the person instead of just applying to the black hole of resumes. And so we have multiple different ways that you can do it, right? So with large companies, people get referral bonuses for bringing people in. right? So if I have an alumni who might be working at, I don't know, let's just use Nordstrom Trunk for an example, right? And I have an alumni there. I can reach out to them. I see that they have a job open. Instead of just applying, I creatively outreach. So I take one of the templates and I reach out and say, hey, you know, I would love to get my foot in the door before I apply to this black hole of resumes or something funny. You know, would you get a referral bonus for helping me get my foot in the door? There's a lot of materials. Oh, awesome. Okay. Thank you, Sam. So the material's all in there. Let me know if you have more questions on that. Yes, the average job search does take 6 months for sure. Absolutely. You know what? I've got to share another presentation with you, Brady. I had someone get a job in under 4 weeks, and he just did an entire presentation on it, on his strategy, what he did, how he did it, graduated from App Academy. Happy to share that with you as well. It definitely takes 6 months, but you can speed it up if you have a good system in place and you are very structured and holding yourself accountable. Let's see here. Chung says he wants to make $500 a month from coding freelance or a dev job, lose 30 pounds and get a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Very specific. Perfect. That is what I was looking for. Doing the bridge run this year. Mel, talk to me before you sign up for that. If you haven't done it before, it's awesome, but it's a lot of people. I have a trick to getting to the front of the line so you don't have to wait. Let's see, Brian, I have a specific rock climbing route I want to climb before the end of the year. Amazing. Nicole, build a professional portfolio by coding more projects and go to 1 to 2 networking events a week. Spend at least 15 minutes on LinkedIn daily, adding new connections, posting and liking posts. Exactly. So these are very specific goals, right? And if you write those down and keep those somewhere where you can see them, you should essentially, this is what I do with myself. I don't know if I'm crazy or not, but I have a stand up with myself every week, the beginning and the end of the week, right? I look at my whiteboard and I'm like, what are we looking at this week? And then I cross things off, right? So you could just put that next to your workstation, your desk, and making sure that by Friday, your goals have been met for whatever those goals were for the week. Derek, you can reach out to me separately. I am totally happy to help. September is not as long as you think. The holidays were a bit of a stretch there. And then not going to lie, the politics, I think, held us up there a little bit too. So we've had a lot of bumps in the road. Okay, I am going to keep going for sake of time. Okay, so some of this conversation is definitely going to be a little bit hard to hear, right? So holding yourself accountable is not always easy. You can choose to be the same person you were in 2020, or you cannot. And I always love this quote, you are under no obligation to be the person that you were 5 minutes ago. You have the power to change who you want to be and the habits that you have in order to get the results that you are hoping for. Okay, so this is about to get real. So make sure that you are taking notes and that you're real with yourself because no one's going to see this but you, right? You don't have to share this with anybody. But I really want you to hold yourself accountable here and ask yourself the really hard questions and then rate yourself on a 1 to 10. Because what you can do from here after you rate yourself a 1 through 10, say, for example, if I say, okay, did I network? No, let's use this one. Did I utilize the AA alumni network? Maybe I gave myself a 5 on that one, right? So, or maybe even a 4. That gives me 6 more points to get better every single week and using my alumni network. And so I can break those down into tiny little bits and pieces. That gives me a lot of room to say to myself, okay, Monday's stand up with myself. How many alumni am I going to reach out to today? This week? Write that number down. By Friday, if you have not reached out to 5 alumni from your network, wherever that network might be, it could be your undergrad, it could be your previous career, it could be your boot camp, then you have to look at that goal and figure out a way to get it done. So if there's a lot of room for improvement, here's where you're going to find your weaknesses, right? So if you're honest with yourself right now, you should be able to walk away with these questions, and I'll share the slide deck with you as soon as we're done, with real numbers. And so you know where maybe you did an awesome job on crushing it in hackathons so that you're constantly green, right, in GitHub, and that your portfolio looks amazing and it totally beats out everyone else's, right? Maybe you did really well there, but maybe you didn't do well when, the doom loop, which is where we start to feel really insecure about our abilities. The imposter syndrome kicked in, and you, instead of asking for help, you went the other direction and you ghosted your coach or ghosted your team for a month because you just didn't want to deal with it. And I get it. We've all been there. For sure, we've all been there. So find out where the areas are that you need to work on for 2021 in order to land that job. And if you haven't participated in hackathons, which I just saw we had a spelling error there. Man, that drives me nuts. Sorry about that. But if you haven't done a hackathon, there's one that we work with pretty heavily called Mint Beam, and they're based out of Canada, and they do really, really amazing hackathons. And every time we've done one with them, we get such great feedback, and people have an entire project now to add to their portfolio and to talk about. And I know for me as a recruiter, if you are going out of your way to do hackathons and learn maybe a new tech stack, work with the team that they sign you up with. So working with people, you have no idea who they are. Some might be in Canada, some might be in Wisconsin, you don't know, but you're teamed up with people you don't know, and you're building something from the ground up. To me, that goes a long way as a recruiter. That shows that you are trying to build out your GitHub and your portfolio. Okay. I'm going to look at the chats really quick because they seem to be building up here. So let's see here. Okay, Brian, whiteboard is a goal. So give yourself a timeline on when you have to have that whiteboard by, and then check that off. Adam, after 6 months, your resume will be meaningless, by the way. I don't know what you mean by that. Would love for you to elaborate. James, I'm trying to actually take weekends off, but don't know if that's a bad strategy while I'm here on a Saturday, so not completely off. No, I think that's a good strategy. I think you should definitely, if you really hammered it through the week and crushed it and got your numbers and really feel like you honestly feel like you did an amazing job doing everything you can to land your next job, then you should take the weekend off. Absolutely. You need the recharge. If you don't get a recharge, you're not any good come Monday. Trust me, I've done that to myself way too many times. Okay. Okay. And since the average job search takes 6 months, realize that every layoff could easily be the end of your career. Yes. Oh, good, Sam. Amazing. I might have actually introduced Braidy to them. I can't remember. All the days seem to fly together, but yeah, they're amazing people. The hackathon we just did with them was called Social Justice Hackathon. And so everyone did something to impact social justice. So we had some people did something that was, it was like a mental health app for COVID-19. Another one did an app where if you feel like you are not safe, you can specifically send this text message, and it was for people that were in a dangerous situation. And then they did something environmental. It was really, really good. Such a great thing. They reached out to me and they mentioned that you told them. Oh, perfect. Okay. So work like crazy to find a job and take literally any offer. If they're abusive, just don't list them when you apply. No, definitely don't take any job offer for sure. You guys have gone through a boot camp, right? And you've put in the work. So you deserve a job that that you want, essentially, right? Now, sometimes it gets tricky, right? This week, I have someone who's like, do I, do I wait for Facebook and Amazon and Google because I'm already halfway through, but then I got an offer that's really good with good benefits and I like the team? Do I take that now and wait on Fang later? Or do I say no to that and hope that one of these three are going to work out? And it's it's a tricky situation to be in, right? So no, I definitely think you should not take just any job at all. You've got to be specific about what you're looking for sure. Okay. So self-rejecting, I think we've all kind of said that we've done that today, which I know for myself, I do that as well too. And so sometimes you think you don't deserve the job, right? I can hear it now. Well, it's not my tech stack. It's not what I know. I don't want to creatively outreach because if I'm sending people LinkedIn messages, it feels, like I'm being annoying or I'm bothering them. It doesn't matter if they don't respond to you. I know that's hard to hear, but as a recruiter, I would reach out to about 100 people a day, especially on my sourcing days. I would have sourcing days where I would have to work from home because I couldn't be in the office because too many people would be coming in and out to talk. And so when I was going to source, which in your case would be applying for jobs and such, I would log out of every single browser. My phone was in another room, and that's the only thing I allowed myself to do. And 1 hour at a time, right? And I would get to 100 messages, and I knew that maybe 2 people would get back to me out of those 100, and one of them probably wouldn't even move, right? And so it became kind of a numbers game, which sucks, but it opens a lot of doors that you may not have opened before. And I just know that you have to put the numbers in for it to work for you, which does take a lot of time. But it doesn't matter if they don't respond. Who cares? If the job description is anywhere from 1 to 4 years of experience, my personal opinion, all subjective, but you have every right to be applying to 1 to 4 years. Anything over 4 years, you don't, unless you come with a background of software engineering. But fresh out of boot camp with no experience, the only reason I say 1 to 4 years is because last quarter, I placed 19 people. And those people, no, maybe it was 17 actually. Either way, those people were applying to jobs that were 1 to 4 years, some of them 3+, right? And tech stacks that were not in their realm, right? So while they might understand the syntax, they didn't know Python or Java, but they applied for it anyway. And with the right attitude and the right aptitude, the company hired them knowing that they could easily teach them Python or React Native, whatever it might be that they didn't come with because they understood the syntax and the basis of it. So don't worry about self-rejecting. If you don't put yourself out there, that door is not going to open for you. You literally have nothing to lose. Nothing. Okay, I'm going to look at the chat again. Find engineering teams that share your values. Yes, absolutely. Interview prep. Oh, that's such a good topic too. I'm doing one of those here soon for App Academy. Maybe I'll come back one day and talk to you guys about interview prep. Being able to ask intelligent questions based on research, being able to align yourself with core values, being able to align yourself with the company's mission on why you want to work there. I mean, it's a game changer. And really all you have to do is do a really great job on that first interview to get through to be able to talk to the technical team, which is where you really shine. Okay, so Derek asked, how many people do I recommend contacting a week? Well, I can tell you that the guy that I just had, Edmund, I will share his presentation with you when we're done. He was the one that got a job in under 4 weeks. And I want to say that he did at least 50 a day. So he did 50 applications a day for a month straight. And then he also did a ton of creative outreach, right? So finding recruiters and reaching out to them, finding software engineers. He actually got his job by reaching out to a software engineer via creative outreach and saying, do you get a referral bonus if you get me in the door? And that's how he got his job. And he got a great offer. He was super happy, and I will make sure to share that with you. So it's up to you. I mean, you get what you put into it. And I know that's easy for me to sit over here and say, but trust me, I have done my fair share of hard work. I get it. Recruiting is not easy, especially software engineers. Eventually, you're going to have your LinkedIn box being blown up daily by people trying to get you to come work for their company after you have a year of experience. So, Andrea, it is not a waste of time to apply to. Most people that I'm placing right now through App Academy are applying for jobs that are not Ruby on Rails, Python, or React, or JavaScript, and they're getting the job. Some of them are, C++ and Vue.js. Like, the tech stacks are all different. And as long as you show up with a good attitude, like, hey, I can learn this, no problem. In fact, I'm excited to learn this new language, then they're going to hire you. Okay. No, Alejandro, but I am trying to start one. It's just a slow process. Yes, Andrea, it doesn't have to be personalized. So I say you have to go with your mood, right? We don't always wake up ready to do backflips. Some days we wake up and we're like, oh, I don't even want to talk to people, right? We all have to give ourselves that grace. So what I would say is, on the days that you're feeling like, oh my God, I have this, and you're doing backflips and you feel really good, those are the days that you hammer out as many as you can that are creative, that maybe have a cover letter. Maybe it's an alumni that day. Maybe it's somebody in your network. And then on the days that you're just feeling meh, like those days are just part of life, then you would just do quick applies, because you're still doing something. And by a quick apply, I mean finding that, say, just for example, say you go to Google Jobs, right? And you type in last day on a filter, pull up all the jobs, go to the website, you pull up the job, and it says apply here, apply through LinkedIn. Usually gives you like 5 or 6 options to apply. You just pick one and you apply, and you don't put that much time in, right? You put your resume in and maybe like a couple sentences if they ask you that, but ultimately you're just putting your resume in or applying with your LinkedIn. Those to me are quick applies. And when you mentally feel like you don't want to do anything or talk to anybody, those are your times to say, okay, then today is not going to go to waste. Today's going to be a quick apply day, and I'm going to feel okay with that, because people still get jobs on quick applies. Hopefully that helps. And then as far as like DSNA practice, building projects, etc., I think, it depends on how many hours you're giving yourself a day, right? And that's a personal decision. I have some job seekers who their window is 4 hours that they give themselves, right? For 4 hours, they're going to work, and the rest of the day they're doing whatever. So you have to be realistic with how many hours you have. And I know for our job seekers, right when they graduate, we have everyone create a very strict schedule for themselves on their Google Calendar before they even leave App Academy. So you see where you're supposed to be every day, even if you're on your own. So let's see. Any tips on finding informational interviews? I've sent out many requests on LinkedIn contacts without success. Any tips on finding informational interviews? Iyad, I'm going to have you just explain that a little bit, or feel free to jump in. I don't know what you mean by informational interviews. Okay, let's see here. So quick apply and then doing the company research later. Yes, on the days that you don't feel like going full force and going at it. Because guess what? If you quick apply and it took you 3 minutes to quick apply and they came back and you're like, actually, I hate fintech. I can't believe I applied for that. Great. No big deal. You let them know that you're not going to interview. Like, it's no big deal. The 2-hour job search by Steve Dalton. Ooh, I haven't heard of that one either. So Kalfani, you'll be able to see the personalization and all the templates that I created that Sam posted in the Slack channel for you. There's a link in there. And we do another creative outreach. We do it once a week together. Maybe that is something, maybe to your point, maybe there is like a YouTube or something that I can do so you guys can see it. But that 6 hours of video will be enough to get you started, I promise. Okay, I'm gonna take one more and then I'm gonna keep rolling for the sake of time. So Haley, I'm curious how long and how much everybody preps before interviewing. I never feel ready to interview. In the past, when looking for jobs, I tend to bomb a few before I get it right. So yeah, great question. The interview prep to me is the most important part, right? So when you are prepping for an interview, before somebody comes to me and says, hey, I need an interview prep, they have to bring with them every human that they're talking to. I want all of their LinkedIn profiles. I need the job description and the company website, and then we'll go ahead and prep for it, right? So we rip it apart backwards and we take the job description and we highlight every bit that has something to do with us, right? So is there a question or 3 that we can pull from the job description? And if we were asked something about the job description, what would some of those questions be? Your personal pitch, that has got to be so solid. And there's so many ways to perfect that. And what else I'll share with you guys today too is I've created this thing called a recruiting toolbox. And it's a way to just really get you going to interview prep so that you know how to do your personal pitch, your weakness question, why we should hire you, right? What are your top strengths? What are you doing to keep yourself abreast new technology? Like, what are you reading? What podcasts are you listening to? Are you teaching yourself Java on the weekends? Like, there's so many ways to nail the interview. And knowing what the product is inside and out, knowing why you care about that product or that software as a service, understanding the company values and the culture. Why do you fit in with that culture? So prepping is literally like 100%, maybe in some of like getting in the way for some of you guys, because that's definitely key. And I can try to talk more about that at the end here. I'm going to keep going just for the time being. Okay. So like we said, we've got to be real with ourselves today and hold ourselves accountable, right? I don't know about y'all, but Home Alone is still one of my favorite movies. I don't know if it's because I'm a child of the 80s or not, but man, I love that movie. I watch it every single year. But no, you cannot blame anybody, right? Because we all have uphill battles, right? We all have things thrown at us that are so bad, right? They're horrible. Some things are really horrible right now. But there's also a lot of good things, right? And so you don't get to choose your path on what is thrown at you and what is not. So you have to hold yourself accountable no matter what, no matter how crazy things get. So if there's murder hornets in your apartment and we're in a pandemic and you haven't left your apartment for a year and the politics are through the roof and your family's crazy and they won't leave you alone and you're tired of your significant other because you've been in pandemic mode for a year, it doesn't matter. You still have to wake up and own your life and be the CEO of your own life. You're the only one that is in charge of this. So the result, the outcome of your life is only on you, nobody else. I don't care what the circumstances are. I don't care how bad they are. I've had my own bad circumstances. I know all about it, but you have to persevere because you only get this one life. Okay. So I love talking about this part here because this is so important, right? So take a minute to write down the 5 people pre-pandemic, well, maybe even post, but in your normal life, who would be the 5 people that you surround yourself with most? Just write those people down for me for a minute. The people that we are around the most are the people that we are going to end up like, for better or for worse. If you are hanging out with 5 people who are millionaires, you're going to be the 6th. If you're hanging out with 5 people who are struggling and their cars don't work and they're 50 years old and they have no direction where their life is going and they're living week to week, you're going to be the 6th. The 5 people that you surround yourself with is so important. If you hang around going back to the beginning of our conversation, if you hang around with 5 alcoholics, you're going to be the 6th, right? If you hang around with 5 people who push themselves so hard, finish boot camp and get a job in under 4 weeks, you're going to be the 6th. So what does your circle look like? Be honest with yourself. Sam, are we doing okay on time?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I don't know if we'll run out of space on the recording, but hopefully we can fit it all.
Okay. Okay. So all of that, holding ourselves accountable, which is really hard to do. Here we are. This is the fork in the road again, right? So how are you going to be the person that transforms into the person that lands that job, whatever that job is? So just like I said before, what are you reading? And be specific. What are you reading right now that's going to help you be a better person? So for me, this month, I'm reading Atomic Habits, like I said. I'm also reading, you guys are probably going to barf when I say this, but I am a Patriots fan. I am reading the TB12 book. I have a fascination with just being great and greatness, and Tom Brady is great. I said it there. It's out there. I'm reading his book right now, which is actually a very interesting book. And podcasts. So there's 3 different podcasts that I'm listening to right now. Like I said, Rob Dial is one of the best ones. And, you know, what network events are you going to? So when people ask you, you know, what are you doing to keep yourself sharp and innovative and getting after it? Like, what are you doing? And if you don't have any answers to these questions, that's okay. We're here to start, right? We're starting new. 2021 is new you, new us. Let's do this. So start to think about, what should I be reading? Should I be reading blogs about software development? Should I be on Reddit threads that are talking about languages that I'm working with, like JavaScript and React? Should I be in those conversations to learn more from people who are more senior than me? And then maybe I can network with them via Reddit through LinkedIn. Maybe that's a route I need to go. What are some technology podcasts that I maybe could be listening to also broaden my horizons and speak more intelligently in interviews, right? And blow these people out of the water by the knowledge that I'm grasping from outside sources. It's all available to me. What network events are you going to that you can talk about, right? So if someone were to ask me, if I were in your shoes and I were interviewing and they said, what are you doing to keep yourself engaged and innovative? This happy hour would be one of those things that I talk about. I would say, you know, a couple times a month, I join 100 people or so that are all in my industry, that all care about software development and are there to network with one another and help each other out as a community. That's one of the things that I do. That would impress me as a technical recruiter. So kudos to you all for being here today on your Saturday. How are you keeping yourself abreast new technology, right? So are you teaching yourself Python? At App Academy, we just gave out the Python curriculum. Do you know how many people are not taking advantage of that when it's free? Take advantage of that. Even if it's little bit by little bit, right? That you're teaching yourself. Do you have a terrible attitude from 2020 and you can't get out of your own rut in your own way? What are you doing to change your mindset? How are you going to help yourself? Are you going to exercise, drink water, get more sleep? What are you going to do to keep yourself fresh and ready to rock and roll? So we need to think about, what are the things that are going to help us transform into the person that we want to be? So just take a second to write those down. I've given you a lot of examples there. Network events could be the hackathon as well. There's tons of virtual job fairs that you could be attending as well. Podcasts there's millions out there. Okay. So we have about 10 slides left. I'm going to keep going for a minute and then I'll check the chat. So take a second to decide who you are going to be in 2021. What do you have to believe about yourself? So write that down. Do you need to believe that you are really good technically given the opportunity? Given the opportunity to put in the work, to understand what you're doing, are you good technically? Do you have the capability to be good technically? Do you know what to do and who to reach out to and what to practice if you're not up to par technically with where you think you should be? If not, are you asking for help? What are some of the habits that you wrote down that have to go? What do you have to start doing differently in order to get better results? What do you have to start doing differently today to get better results for next year? So 2022 should look amazing, right? You should already be hopefully a few months, 6 months, whatever, into your new job, reading new things, keeping yourself innovative and cutting edge. And then your health should be number one. What are you going to do to own that person? Give yourself the year, give yourself the 8 months. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long time to create new habits. It takes a long time to change, but you have to be open to change and you have to be open to doing things differently than you're doing them now if it's not working for you. If you've been at it for 6 months and you haven't found a job, stop in your tracks. Look at what you're doing and let's reconfigure it and find new ways. Because if you do the same thing over, I think it was Albert Einstein. I mean, it's the definition of insanity, right? So you want to come up with new ways to do things if it's not working for you. And then we wrote down all those positive things, habits that we have. What do you need to continue doing? Let's roll all the positive things that you've been doing into 2021. Okay, so what is a new version of you going to look like? That's me, but not me, but basically me. If I could eat pizza for every meal, I would. So we thought that was the perfect meme or GIF. So the new version of me, write down some of these things for yourself. Be honest. It hurts sometimes, I know, but the new version of me might not sleep in, right? I have some job seekers who can't figure out why they cannot make traction and they get up at 11 o'clock. They start their day at 11 in the morning, East Coast time, no time zone there. Like starting your day at 11 o'clock and then signing off at 6, that doesn't give you much time to be applying to jobs when recruiters or hiring managers are actually looking at anything, right? Put yourself in the right time. Get up early, start your day early. If you're procrastinating, figure out what's in your way, right? Like I said before, when I am doing my sourcing and I require no distractions, I leave the office. I close out my tabs. I leave my phone in the other room and I don't allow myself to do anything but that. Atomic habits. How can you create space for yourself to say, if I get X done during this hour, then I can play video games, right? If you're eating unhealthily, then you're not fueling your body to be the best version of you. And avoiding reality, right? That's a hard one. We're all going through that right now. Some days it is easier to stay in bed, but we've got to fight the fight. Okay. The new version of you. So write down what that might look like. I'm going to grab a soda water while you're writing this down. I have an addiction to soda water. I must drink like at least 15 of these a day. So maybe the new version of you is getting up earlier, having a plan. Maybe it's taking your Google Calendar and structuring the whole thing out so you know where to be Monday, right? Doing it today, creating your entire week hour by hour, if that's what you have to do. So when Monday comes around, there's no question on where you need to be. You wake up at 9, you get coffee, maybe you work out, maybe you get up at 8, whatever. You figure it out where you have enough hours in the day where you're working hours, where people are getting your applications and they're not getting it at 3 a.m, right? And you're working on maybe even have an hour set aside for your goals, right? I should have put a screenshot of what this looks like in here, but we literally for the whole week, you should be able to set up for yourself, like I said, DNA for an hour, maybe, doing some pair programming. If you don't have someone to pair a program with, I bet you any amount of money, someone in this group would be more than wide open to pair a program with you. and help you and walk you through what you might not be good at. And then you can do the same for them, what they might not be good at. Setting small goals for yourself, right? After I hit my applications for the day, I get to go to the gym for 2 hours, right? Or whatever I might like to do. I get to play chess with friends for a couple hours. I get to read. You know, I get to do whatever I want to do after I do X amount of applications or creative outreach, whatever it might be, something that's helping my job search. As you guys are writing these down, I'm going to take a look at the chat quick. Okay. Yep. I will share it with you. Grit by Angela Duckworth. Okay. I haven't heard of that one. That's great. I don't have a tech podcast suggestion, but I will put Rob Dial in here and I will try to find one. Or maybe someone knows of one. There you go. Look at Brian. Stepping up is getting paraprogramming signed up. Like, yes. Do algos, work with each other, help each other. Okay. Okay, so this was a lot. Take a deep breath and think about what your plan is going to be. Keeping self-care number one. So everything that you are going to do to be who you want to be and show up in 2021, the person that you want to be, is going to start with self-care. We've identified that. And then you've got, I guess we have 8 months left, right? 8 months in this year to really live your best life. What is that going to look like for you? I want you to write down, if you could pick your ideal life, what that would look like, right? I promise you, when you get a software engineering job and you are learning and excited about what you're doing and you're getting an awesome paycheck, like, things will be amazing. They will. But the hardest part is just to get there and get through this, right? And just get that 1 year of experience under your belt. And then really the world is your oyster. I promise you. Hopefully you only have to do this once. Look at Sam, right? He just left Lyft and moved to Tulsa because they're trying to build a community, right? And he took advantage of that opportunity after getting a ton of experience. He'll never have to look for a job again in his life. They're going to come to him. And they're going to come to you as well. But you've got to put in the work to get that initial step and get your foot in the door. So again, you are the only one in control of your future. Oh, I did put this slide in there. Couldn't remember if I did or not. So whatever you're doing right now, if it's not working and you're frustrated and you're not making traction, then we have to do something different. So when I meet with my job seekers every week, and I might, have not talked to someone in 5 days and they tell me they have no coding challenges, they have no interviews lined up, we figure out what we can do different, because what we're doing that week isn't working, right? And 9 times out of 10, we find out that they haven't put in the effort that they're supposed to be putting in or need to put in to get results, right? So if you find yourself in a hamster wheel, then you need to mix it up, whatever that looks like. And if you have friends from other cohorts, other, previous college, friends that are in the industry, people here that you could reach out to, talk to them, right? Use your network. You've got to use your network and ask people, like, how did they get their job? How did they get their foot in the door? What did they do? So the secret to rewiring yourself into getting rid of your negative thoughts and your addiction to them is to be very intentional about every single day. For some of you, that's going to be every single hour, and that's okay. I have those days. I have days where I have to break down my hour by hour to be able to get the things done, because otherwise I end up in la la land, having 80,000 tabs open on 2 laptops, going back and forth, sometimes listening to a company-wide presentation while I'm negotiating with somebody and helping them. It's crazy town, right? So I have to rein it in and sometimes take it hour by hour, which is totally fine. So you need to replace your negative thoughts with positive thoughts 3 times a day. So when you're having negative thoughts, you need to stop in your tracks. If you want to write it down, write it down. It could be, I bombed my personal pitch. I rambled, I stuttered, I made a fool of myself, and the interview went, 8 minutes long. Take that opportunity and let's figure out the positive things that you did, right? You were able to get the interview. You prepped adequately for the interview, right? Sometimes people we freeze, we break. It happens. Find a way to turn it positive at least 3 times a day. The only way to wake up and look at your life and be proud of who you are is by identifying who you want to be and then identifying the baby steps to get there. Like I said, it doesn't happen overnight, right? Bodybuilders don't become huge bodybuilders with no, fat on their bodies overnight. It takes years. This is going to take a long time, right? But you have to do it day by day, little bit by little bit, and you will wake up a completely different person. And by a completely different person, I mean a person who is not struggling to find a job, a person who is, Sam, I'm going to use you again, but you're a great example of a developer who owned it, right? Got a job, went through the hard part, dealt with it just to get his foot in the door somewhere, made it, and now he woke up a different person, right? From where he started, where he is moving to Tulsa because they're willing to pay people to go there and he's on a sabbatical, right? Sam may not have known that 10 years ago that he was going to be that person, but he worked at it every single day to become a better person and a better engineer. And look where he is now. If you can't tell, Sam, I'm very proud of your situation. All right. So let me look at the questions here that we have in the chat and we'll start there and then I can pull up the Slido link. Oh yes, Twitter's a great place to find jobs too, honestly. Okay, so feel free to drop your any questions you have in here. Okay. A website you can randomly meet somebody on and do whatever you decide to work on. Each party works individually. Okay, so free code camp, yes. Focus mate, but you can get a lot done. Oh, that's awesome. I did not know that. I'm going to write that down actually. With my Sharpie, because that's what I've got today. So focus mate, that's a good one. Free code camp, yes, that's a good one. We use Pramp a lot too to practice, P-R-A-M-P. Trends, a 16Z podcast. Okay, cool. I had no career direction until I was 34. How old are you now, Sam?
41. I'm going to be 42 this year.
There you go. Wow. See, it took years, but not that many for you, which is great. Where do I find the cold email templates? They're inside of that PDF. There should be a link to the Google Doc. If it's not, I will get it for you guys. I am going to try to find the Slido link back up here. Give me 1 second. So Bret, how important is having a well-designed portfolio for a web developer and finding full-time salaried employment? It's the number one thing, honestly. If you are looking for a web developer role and you're going to be so for example, for me, if you're going to be working on my front end and working on my UI and user experience, you've got to have a great portfolio. At least a couple of things that I can see that you have done, to be able to look at your work, something that you're proud of. So in my opinion, as a recruiter, it's very, very important. In fact, I don't know, as you become more senior, when I've hired UI UX engineers that have been more senior, the portfolio is the first thing I look at. So you might as well start now. on, you know, really getting a really solid portfolio if you don't have one. And if you need things to build out, hackathons are definitely a great place to do that. Or even a lot of my job seekers use Upwork, and they find a lot of good freelance opportunities to be able to do, you know, make commits and put cool stuff on their portfolio. Hopefully that I answered that question. Now that I graduated from a software bootcamp, is it recommended to take more classes or learn new languages on your own? So if you are working already, I would say you could learn new classes on your own for sure. If you're not working yet and you graduated from a boot camp, my number one focus for you and recommendation would be to only focus on the job search. Do not try to add more languages right now because you don't need that. What you need to do is get a job and get onto a software engineering team that can help coach you and help mentor you and help really allow you to be a better engineer. And then once you land that, you're going to feel more confident to either teach yourself new languages or take Udemy courses or any free courses out there as well. Okay. Follow up to Brett's question, how important is it to have your projects mined from bootcamp deployed online? It's very important. In fact, if you go to LinkedIn, underneath, if you're looking at LinkedIn and you see the beginning, like where your headshot is, and then your headline, right underneath, there's an opportunity to add projects, not at the very bottom. It's under featured, and all of your projects should be listed there with the meta tags done and completed in either GIFs or a picture at least. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I will put that in, I'll put an example in the chat. Okay, how does an international candidate work to try to get a job in the US considering the current ecosystem? That is a great question. I am not 100% certain. I would say, you know, I feel like most things are remote, which could be a little bit easier. But that question, I would have to say, I would need a follow up to know a little bit more about your personal situation of whether or not you are able to work in the US. That would be a big factor. Okay, what can we do to network for a job every day? Because meetups with devs happen once a month. Yeah, great question. So if you go to LinkedIn, right, like I was talking, and this is just one example, but okay. So if you go to LinkedIn, on the left-hand side on the bottom, there's a ton of groups you can join. So you can join every single tech stack there ever was out there. And you can join software engineering groups that are hiring. Like there's a million that you can join. When people are posting things, you start connecting with them. You start having conversations with them. You start liking the things that people are posting, right? And starting to really create relationships out there. Same thing with Reddit. Same thing with Twitter. There's tons of technical conversations that are going on that you can join in and then add those people on LinkedIn to become a part of your network. The hackathons are a great place to meet people. There's tons of networking events for online career fairs right now as well. So there's a lot out there. You just have to look for it. Sometimes it doesn't just come to you. You're going to have to like do some searches, but I promise you there's stuff out there. And it sounds like that focusmate.com would also be a cool place to meet people. And so say you get tagged up with somebody who is working but just wants to code. I mean, that person eventually, if they're not working, is going to be working. So that could be a whole plethora of a new network of people that are doing the same thing you are that could help you get a job too.
Yeah, and also there's meetups every day now that all the meetups have moved to be virtually. So just start joining communities and following more devs on Twitter and LinkedIn, and then it's easier to find them because they just pop up in your feed. Like I post a lot of events in our Slack because I follow like thousands of developers. So I find out about a lot of events, and I'm in a bunch of Slacks. Like I have my Slack open all day long. So that's how I find out about a lot of the events. So
Yeah.
just over time, as you follow more and more people and you're involved in more communities, it's just easier to find out about the events.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even think about Slack. That's a great idea too. But yeah, Twitter is so good for that as well. Okay, how do you come up with goals when you've spent a lot of time coming up with and trying several things that doesn't work and you're out of ideas? I would say, if you haven't already, and I know I mentioned this before, but talking to colleagues and seeing what they're doing and what their goals are, maybe finding a mentor or three and figuring out what some of their goals are. But I would be curious if there's any more context to that, like as far as what you've tried so far. How do you present your previous work experience if it's in a vastly different field, especially one that doesn't involve easily measurable accomplishments? Lots of different ways to do that, but I had a guy the other day who I was working with. He's been a chef for like 20 years, now turned software engineer. And we were able to turn that into really good experience and why he's good for the role, right? Because he has his boot camp experience, so we know he knows how to code, but more importantly, he's spent the last 20 years as an executive chef. And that, you bring so much more to the table with your previous experience than you might think. For example, if you're an executive chef, I mean, your time management skills need to be on point. Presentation needs to be on point. You've got to be client facing to maybe some really high-end clients. The pace in which you work at is super fast. People change their mind or do crazy things, and you've got to pivot and be agile, right? So there's a lot of different things that you might bring to the table from your previous work experience that you're not even thinking about. Okay, do you think bootcamp capstone projects are more or less important than personal projects? That's a great question. So I think that the bootcamp, for me, the bootcamp projects are important because I feel like so for us at App Academy, we do a MERN stack project, and you have to do it in a team setting. And I like to see when people can talk about the team environment and what it was like and why they chose to do what they chose to do, how they came to pick one UI over another. There's a lot that goes into that team thought process, but seeing any personal projects too would be awesome. So the more the merrier, but I do think you should have, if you have the bootcamp ones, you should definitely use them because, usually they're something to show off. So it looks like that is the last question on Slido. So I can go back to the chat and see if we have any follow-ups. And I'll show you guys a quick example of what the projects look like up under featured on LinkedIn. And if you see down here on the left, you can still see my screen, right? Okay. So down here on the left, these are the hashtags I'm following. These are the groups that I'm a part of. These are where I find all my jobs, or I used to find developers from there. But let's look at, Maggie's is good. So this is Maggie. She's one of my current job seekers. She's amazing. But if you see how she has these all here under featured, so instead of scrolling all the way down to the bottom, you could put it here, but nobody's going to look at that. What you want to do is have it up here so that everybody can see it. So this is an easy and fast way to her portfolio. I can see all of her projects right here because she's showing them off to me, right? And they have GIFs or pictures at least to make my life easier. So, okay, now I'm going to stop sharing and we'll go back to the chat. And if anybody needs the code on how to do that, I have the code. It's only like 4 lines to do it. People seem to get pretty frustrated with it, but it can be done, I promise. So I can also share that with Brady or Sam as well.